Good morning, everyone. My name is Mala, and my session today is on scripting SQL objects using SMO. Now, SMO is a really old thing. It's been around since SQL Server 2005. It is short for SQL Server Management Objects. There have been a lot of blog posts and a lot of talks done on this. I only picked a really small portion of it to demo something, and also my main goal behind this talk was mostly to address certain things. A lot of old school operational DBAs, and I am one of them. Sometimes we are intimidated by doing things via scripting. We are very used to using SSMS GUI for simple things, and we want to stick with that comfort zone. So if someone presents us a 200 or 300 line PowerShell script to do the same thing, we are like, I've been doing this forever. I've been doing it, it takes less than a minute for me to run it using Management Studio. I'm going to stick with that. I can't get my brain through this much of code and such. And we don't live in a time when scripting is an optional skill. Most of us, if we have to sell ourselves as data people, we have to know some kind of scripting, and it is important to get out of that comfort zone. So to me, this was one of my earliest scripts that I used in PowerShell to learn scripting, and how I learned it was to script it in, split it into small portions and really understand what it is doing. So I thought it would help to take people through this, so that if you have similar hurdles, then you would be able to get up to speed with scripting. So this is a little bit about me. I've been around in the SQL world for a long time, and I'm based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. A little thank you to my PowerShell mentor who was the speaker earlier in this conference. So why script? Script, when we live in a world when we call infrastructure as code, and databases are a big part of that infrastructure. So it is really important that you should have a scripted version of your production databases. This is not a substitute for having backups or anything like that. This is more for the purpose of understanding what the most recent changes were, to do code analysis if you have a lot of SQL code and things like that. And if you have an automated process that does the scripting, then the standards that it sticks to are more or less uniform, as compared to many different people setting their own options on Management Studio and running scripts, and one has a trigger scripted out, the other one doesn't. One has a header, the other one doesn't. So all these things are avoided if you use a standard script to do your scripting. And automated scripting definitely saves time and effort. So these are some of the advantages you have over using SQL Server Management Studio for scripting purposes. So SMO, as I said when in the beginning of this talk, is short for SQL Server Management Objects. It's programmatic management of Microsoft SQL Server, and it's a .NET framework based. It can be used with any .NET based language or with PowerShell. And as far as scripting goes, the settings and the various options it offers are very near similar to what Management Studio has. So what can SMO do? It can do a lot of things. If you have the book MVP Deep Dives Volume 1, there is an excellent chapter by Alan White on what are the different things that SMO can do. And these are all listed here along with how it does them. If you're using DBA tools, they use a lot of SMO too. So some of the things it can do is configuring SQL Server, backup and restore, create and manage logins, agent jobs, all of that. And the last one, which I'm going to be touching on here, is scripting out SQL Server objects. So the scripter object, which is the one we are going to be using for this purpose, that has the following, the properties and methods. And I borrowed this from the chapter that Alan had. These are the properties and methods it has, and these are the ones that we are going to be setting and using in the PowerShell script. So most of us using SSMS, we are really familiar with how we script things when we want to do that in Management Studio. Just to give a quick demo of that, we just take tasks and generate scripts, and then you choose the objects you want to script here, and then you set the scripting options using the advanced tab. Here it tells you how it's going to be scripted, and finally you tell where it has to go and it gets done. I think most people would be familiar with with doing this. So this is the same thing that I'm trying to accomplish using PowerShell. So like I said in the beginning of this talk, scripting isn't scary. It just looks like a lot of stuff. The first step in this process is to load the SQL Server assemblies, and these come with the product. You don't have to download anything for this. Then what you do is you connect to the SQL Server, you supply the database name and the server name, and then you go about selecting the objects you want to script. Like I made a choice to choose all these objects, but you can pick one or more, or you can even specify the specific table or the view or whatever it is that you want to script. And then you set the options here that you want, like the ones that you have on the advanced tab on SSMS, and then you loop through whatever you set here and you let it run, and it generates the whole thing for you. So I show you a quick demo of the PowerShell script. Here, so this is the script. I don't have time to take you through all of this, but this is the same thing as what I showed you on the slide deck. And I just let it run, and it just scripts out everything for me. So it'll take a minute or two to get done. And once it gets done, these are the various schemas. And under these schemas, you will have all the objects that are there in the database. That's the same thing that Management Studio is going to do for you. So there are some differences it has with SSMS. The options for tables and views are exactly the same. It cannot add pretty headers and such to your script. That's something you might have to do on your own if you choose to do it. And the biggest thing here is that they have not fixed it to do create or alter, which is a really old fix in my opinion, but it's not been done yet. So you may have to alter the code, write code to go through parse it and fix all the creates with create or alter. It's quite a bummer, but that's how it is. And they have other objects that they say have this option, but most code I have seen uses the scripter object, and the scripter object is not updated yet to do create or alter. It also cannot continue on error. You have to programmatically write whatever you want it to do, and it cannot script for any specific edition. So these are the things to remember if you want to replace your SSMS scripting with the SMO based model. And there are some references like really good books and articles that you want to read up, and here are they. That's about it. And I hope this helps anyone who's still having roadblocks around using PowerShell or using scripting instead of SSMS. Thank you, Ben, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Mala, I have one favor to ask because yes. I was out for 1 minute and the demo you were showing was not visible because it looks like you only shared the PowerPoint. And since we got 2 to 3 minutes left anyway, if you would be so kind, I'm terribly sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
If you would be so kind
Can
about.
You see my screen?
So far, we still see the thank you.
Oh, okay.
So probably do this. You should see a cross at the bottom of your screen or on top, depending on which version of which will stop the sharing. There we go. And now we see, and then
okay. No, so now if I go to PowerShell, you may be able to see it.
We still see the PowerPoint. So what you probably did is sharing the PowerPoint and not your screen. And so there should be or if you close the PowerPoint, it will also stop the sharing. So there we go. And now you should see that arrow again pointing up that you used for sharing.
Okay.
And then pick the PowerShell. Again, very sorry about that. There we go.
That's okay. So this is my script. Like I said, it's really simple, easy to do. You just load the libraries first, and then you connect to the server and database, and then you pick the objects that you want to script out, and then go down further. You set the options on what you want to script out, like, whether you want a header, whether you want drop and create, or you just, all these things are pretty self-explanatory here. You want to append the script to the same file, and you allow system objects, everything you see on the advanced button on Management Studio, most of it at least, I won't say everything, but about 95% of it is here. And then you go down and you loop through whatever you set, and it's going to script it all out to the table. So I will run it here for a second. Okay. So if I go here, you can see everything that it's scripted out. So it puts one folder for everything, and I will add the link to the script if anyone's interested on the slide deck to send to them.